Okay, a little show and tell here. I keep doing these things because I keep coming across these things in my, I don't know, boxes and boxes of amassed material over the years. And, I don't know, I kind of do these videos and then I figure I can kind of get rid of some of these things. Although, I don't know, I might save some of them just for a little bit of a historical record. But anyways, this right here, this little kind of a 11 by 17 folded pamphlet is a handout that I used to give people in my workshops, and this is going back to probably around 1991, I'm guessing, 1990 or 91. And this is not a color print, but I just did a color laser and just I would glue it to this front cover, and I was having these printed at Kinkos Copies probably back in the day, and so I didn't care about all this black ink right here, so I just did that whole thing black on the cover like that, which I would never do, you know, if I was printing these out myself. But anyways, this is back when I was with the Stamp in the Hand company, and this is a real early incarnation of all the designs that I had with them. This was like the second series, the kind of the second full series of designs, and you'll find these on various sets of Stampscapes now. It's Nature Sets 1 through 4. Stamp of the Hand discontinued these at one point in time, so I just started reproducing them myself in sets again. And this is the second series. I think these ones came out before the Sky figures, but this is where it kind of all came together for kind of scenic stamping and a kind of a something seen as like a modular set in its entirety as far as the concept goes. And then this right here was the real early images from kind of a nature concept. I've shown these before on a video where I was going over the originals, but this stamp right here, this kind of lakeside covey type of thing, it's called Lakeside, was the one that was really selling quite a bit. So I decided to work around that, and it's kind of a real distant type of, you know, Pine Island type of thing. Maybe it has a little bit of snow on it or something like that. I just put that kind of little line in there for a little bit of texture. Otherwise it'd be a little boring, I thought. But then I came out with this one to be kind of a closer version of it, so we can start working with depth within a scene, foreground, background. And one of the other things that I mentioned in the kind of the originals video when I was talking about this board, all these designs were designed on one board, I think. I don't know, can't remember, but things like lightning, I wanted to do these reversed out images like of snow and of things like lightning, because up until then the only things that I saw were like, you know, solid balls or something like that, when it would really be the reverse, you know, if this was supposed to be light. And that was gave the idea for we call this field of snow, field of lightning, and my old boss, Kathy, said, well, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to do something to fill around that. So I came up with this thing called Field of Sky, which is just a pattern of dots. We weren't doing things like sponging back in that day, you know, kind of filling in vast areas of color. So this is kind of a tonal stamp, and it was the precursor to the tonal applicator. And if you've been stamping a long time and know our line, the tonal applicator was that kind of pear-shaped design. Kind of, it's a refined version of this, because what I found was that these isolated dots around the edge, if you don't have them condensed enough, then these dots around the edge will stamp larger because there's not as much support around them. So these ones in the center were fine, but these ones on the edge, even though they're the same point size in terms of the you know, the millimeter of pen that they're rendered in, when you come to stamping something, you know, the very nature of pressing on something and the pressure of it, those dots on the side became larger, so I came up with a more uniform design. But anyways, this is the thing that I used to hand out to people, and I think I might have had something inside talking about the concept of these too, so I might have given away some color lasers too, but that's kind of a real early scene that I stamped out. You can see that there's not much tone used in there. I think I was, you know, if we did get a little bit of extra tone, it was just taking a wadded up paper towel and inking it up with a pen and then going in there and coloring it like that. So most of the color in scenes were done in the impressions themselves, so I would color up the rocks, the waterfall, you know, the pine trees just with, you know, brown and green or black and gray and blue or whatnot. But real early incarnations of kind of scenic stamping there. And, okay, this is another thing that I found. You can see it's from Office Depot. Your original copy is enclosed. This wasn't the first incarnation of a catalog of mine, but it was pretty early on. It came out during the second line of stamps. I believe it was probably around 1995, I'm guessing, or 96 when I came out with the tropical stamps, but just something real simple. I didn't have a lot of time to do these things, so it's just a lot of wording right here. This is probably doing something in Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm not sure. PageMaker? I don't think it was PageMaker, but talking about how I made the stamps, what stamping it was about, how they're rendered, thanks, you know. And then I just got right into the stamps right here. A lot of these kind of stamps were discontinued. Some of the smaller versions, because some of the smaller versions of the regular size ones got so small, and which is no problem for ink pads these days, raised eye base pads, but when we used to use brush markers, Marvy brush markers, and if you were working with a brand new Marvy brush marker, and you know, these markers were really juicy, but when these dots and the details got really condensed, if you were using a brand new one and you colored like this, because they didn't have raised eye base pads, you know, back when this was created, if you stamped it out, it would tend to puddle up a little bit in the details, and I didn't like the way that looked, so I discontinued a lot of the smaller sizes, you know, of the designs that, you know, had a lot of condensed dots in them. Back in the day, I just kind of arranged these images to be shown with their, you know, the multiple sizes, and I think it was probably in numerical order. Here's these canyons here, but on and on. I guess, let me see. No, they're not all in size or numerical order, because I put all the smaller ones on here. I don't know, there was no rhyme or reason, except sometimes, you know, to just kind of fill in the space, you know, when you're working on a given format like that. But different moon phases right there, discontinued those, but those are on the symmetry sheets now. So I've re-released a lot of these things in one form or another. Tropics. Now this is one where, like I said, you know, you're kind of limited, so I kind of had to design these pages in a given way, but sometimes these large stamps, you know, they just don't fit well when you're doing these types of catalogs. So I found out that with a lot of my designs, it was probably better to do this on the landscape kind of method or format, I guess. So I did the tropical ones here. I was getting a little bit more creative in terms of my catalog layouts here. I don't know. I used to be, in high school, I was worked on the yearbook staff and became a section editor, which I didn't want to do, but they just kind of threw that at me. But I was really glad they did when I started doing things like catalog layouts and whatnot, because I can kind of dip back into my page design history with doing the class layouts that I was given back when. And, I don't know, you can see this is a gigantic font here because I didn't really have too much to say, so I don't know, whatever that is, like 48 point or 60 point or something like that. Stampscapes Retail. I used to send out a lot of catalogs back in the day. It looks like I gave people 2 order forms or something like that, and that was through Office Depot. I'd get these things printed up at Kinkos or wherever. I don't know if there's a Kinkos near you, but anyways, the Nature series here, I started getting, instead of having one little, pamphlet like this, which just shows the designs, this was when this was with the Stamp the Hand, this was with Stampscapes here, but this is kind of the original right here, but digital printing wasn't around back then, so it was all going to copy centers and whatnot. This is just talking about everything. I probably got my concepts together a little bit, through teaching so many workshops. So, talked about the goal, steps to using the elements, talking about composition, light and color, secondary elements. I can't believe I wrote all this stuff. Key elements, composition, all this stuff like this. Light and color, hue, value. Looks like I broke down even kind of some principles of color here. Source of light, lighting direction, blending, sponging. I went on and on. Yeah, it looks like that. Actually, this was okay. This is when I was with a Stamp of the Hand and had Stampscapes, because a lot of these right here are Stamp of the Hand designs. And these are the original things. I just color them and then I put them on here so that when they got copied, this is what it looks like right here. Crazy. So it's like first step, second step, third step, toning it in like that. It looks awful when it's kind of copied off like that, but that's all we had. But this thing right here, reading all this and whatnot, I don't know, I kind of go into some things, maybe a little bit more depth. I don't think so, but this scene right here could be a 15-minute video nowadays on YouTube, as opposed to reading this whole thing right here. The YouTube, a visual demonstration like that is, I don't know, to me, 20, 30 times more effective than this pamphlet here. And the same thing went for kind of the lessons online, the step-by-step lessons. I can say, I can demonstrate something so much easier in a video, a live-action video nowadays. So thank heavens for YouTube here. This is another catalog that came out, and I had this printed off, but I started getting into a little bit more creative types of layouts here. I'll show this in the printed version. This was, made, I just printed out things like this and I took it into like a Kinkos Copies, but after a while, something like this, I can see it starts to get frayed because where the machine's kind of grabbing this, or it's getting, pounded into this thing and consolidated, you can only use this for a given amount of, certain amount of copies before it just starts to wear out. So eventually I got around to getting it printed, professionally printed, offset printing, and this is catalog number 4. But the layouts got a little bit more creative here, and I felt that I decided, okay, just forget about the kind of the static positioning of these stamps, because the concept was to really kind of, create scenes out of it. So I kind of loosely laid these different pages out in kind of different formats. You can see this in a PDF online still on our website, but I don't know, kind of gotten into doing these little blurbs about it, these little things like that, rather than just saying, Waterside Bluff left and right or something like that. Really laying things out. too like that. And this is days before I was really doing any scanning, so all this stuff right here is kind of printed out, and I would cut it out with a pair of scissors and lay these things out physically. I don't know if I have the original for this anymore, though. But, you know, just kind of placing things down, kind of roughly where they might go. Not great, but, I don't know, I thought it suited the line better to have things out like this. And I don't know, this was a really fun catalog to work on in terms of laying it out and doing these little blurbs down there. I even did like little things like this. Don't feed the bear, you know, because I put the bear on there, and this is Ursa Major right here, you know, the constellation. So little things like that were really fun to do. Things looked a little bit more dramatic, I felt like, you know, laid out like this too. So it was really fun to do that. I don't know if I can even remember how to do that now. I did a lot of it on Photoshop, so it was kind of, I think it was Photoshop in terms of the type placement, but you know, scanning and all that stuff, I wasn't really into that yet, because, I don't know, I think it used to take up too much memory on the computers, too. This is going way back, so doing a catalog like this and having it all on computer would have just taken up a huge amount of memory, and it probably would have taken forever just to drag and drop something over. Tropical, okay, so I used the tropical format. I was already kind of doing that in that series, right there. Textures, okay, this is when I came up with I think this is the third batch, no, maybe third or fourth batch of designs that came out. But anyways, really fun stuff, and takes me back to when I was sitting in front of my computer, kind of coming up with these little things like that. You know, it's just little typography types of things and playing around with that type of thing. Tonal applicator, we talked about the tonal applicator, you know, the kind of the follow-up to the Field of Sky, but I had an entire page devoted to this one. We sold more tonal applicators than anything because it was just a basic tool to blend all of your different images together, but these days, you know, the tonal applicator, I use more of the you know, the sponging techniques with the Color Box Stylus tool. I felt that when these were out, these were a lot more intuitive, you know, in terms of how to use them, and felt more comfortable in people's hand. And that was the days before YouTube, too, so I couldn't really demonstrate this in motion, so there were so many times when I was on the phone talking with people, kind of explaining how to do this, and that was, you know, kind of hard, and it was probably even harder for people to understand, you know, the concept of this. So, you know, here this is kind of in a diagram right here, kind of explaining how to do it. You know, as you start stamping, the tonal applicator is at its wettest state, using a light tapping motion from the outside of your paper towards your light source. Can you believe that? You know, so I don't know how anyone ever got that down, but I don't know, a lot of people did, got it down and used it, but I don't know, started bringing in a lot more of the information into it. Whether people read that or not, I have no idea, but I probably, you know, because we did a lot more reading then, because we didn't watch a lot of these things done on YouTube or whatnot. So, Stampscapes web. Oh, when the website came out for the first time, this is back around 1996. I don't know when this catalog came out, probably after that. But the website, the original website in 1996 was just the pages from one of those early catalogs that I just showed, just the pages scanned off. So there were about, I don't know, for the website, it was about, I don't know, maybe 12 pages of images or something like that, just the scanned catalog pages, and you would click on it and flip over, you know. And it was a friend of mine that did that first website. He didn't even tell me he was doing it. He just was looking for kind of a project while he was going to law school, and posted a video, posted the website, and he posted it on the university server back in those days. So I don't know, it was kind of funny. Back then, you'd look up rubber stamps, and maybe 2 pages on web crawler or something like that came out. That was the AOL web browser. And one of them, as far as art stamps, was Stampscapes. and the other one was Leavenworth Jackson. I think those were the only two. So you look up rubber stamps, and as far as a web searching machine, Stampscapes would come up, on the first page there. So that's going way back to 1996. Now it would probably be like, I don't know, like 1,000 or something like that. Maybe not that far, but in terms of the, like Googling something, I don't know where Stampscapes would be in the hierarchy of the listings, but not very high at all. So anyways, looking back at that stuff, I'll probably save a couple of these things right here. I don't think I need this one anymore. But, I don't know. Boy, those blacks sure look good on there. I don't know if I printed this out at home on a laser machine or something like that, one of the early Apple writers. But that sure looks good as far as that printout goes. But I have the printed version here. So anyways, a little bit of a catalog history and workshop handout pamphlet history of Stampscapes going way, way back.